Okay. Yep.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're all keeping well and safe. Have we got any apologies for absence?
Yeah, got a couple from Peter Neville, David Price-Steer and Alex Bahari.
Have we got any disclosures of personal and prejudiced interest from members? Silence. Has everybody read the minutes from the last meeting? And anybody here through record who was here in the last meeting? Grace, thank you, Grace. Thank you. Right. Yasmin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, that's...
And welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you all. My name's Yasmin. I'm the new Regional School Liaison Officer in Swansea, and I'm covering another 4 local authorities on top of that. I think I've met a lot of you through the other Armed Forces Covenant meetings. What I wanted to do really was just give you a brief update on what we've got going on in the Swansea area. And then I'll hand over to Rodri, who will run us through the funding plan update. So in Swansea and throughout Wales, we've just carried out a data collection activity. In Swansea itself, we've identified 96 service children across 30 schools in the local authority, and we still have about 45 schools yet to respond, so it works out about 48% of those. So I'm going to be working with Rodri and Mike in the local authority to try tighten that up throughout the rest of this year, and hopefully we'll have a bit more of a clearer picture of how those service numbers are looking. We've started working on the school visits, which have been really successful. I had a really good response in the Swansea area in particular. They've been my best responders really. So I've sent out the introductory emails to them, and I'll begin working with them through our school visit programme, which has a range of activities that includes a checklist, a CPD activity, which is about a 2-hour training slot, and we've also got pupil voice activities. So with the CPD in particular, what we've noticed is with everything going on with schools at the moment in terms of their just returning to school and new curriculum coming out, it's quite hard to get into those and run those meetings how we would have originally liked. So what we're going to be doing is hosting a CPD week just to develop the understanding of the needs of the service children across the area. So that's going to be from the 19th of April. Swansea have got 3 slots at various times throughout the day. I think they're between 10 and the final one is at 4 and finishes at 6. And yeah, we'll just encourage schools to engage in that as much as they can, and we'll be carrying out pupil voice activities, parent and guardian questionnaires and possible case studies. Like I said, it's been really positive. It's been great for us, for SSE Cymru, just to have that engagement from the schools. Also, just in terms of what's coming up April, we've got Month of the Military Child. We're really keen to celebrate that with the children. So what we've done is we've put together some resources, and we're going to put them out throughout the schools, and hopefully we'll have lots of schools willing to engage in those activities. So it's really exciting. It's quite an American event, but we thought bring it to Wales, and it's a really good opportunity to get schools to engage with us there. I'll hand over to Rodri now, who can give the update on the funding plan and what we've got going on in Swansea there.
Thanks, Yasmin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yasmin. Yeah, so we've been working with Yasmin and her colleagues on the back, really, of the data collection that we carried out. So as Yasmin mentioned, sort of 96 children and people identified so far in Swansea. From working with Mike Jones and our data team, that our understanding is that the likelihood is that those that we haven't had those responses for, this is based on conversations we've had with them, in the main, they're likely to be nil responses. But as Yasmin sort of alluded to, really, we really need to make sure that we've got every single support service child identified in Swansea, so that we can properly target, really, the funding that we've got coming in. I think, obviously, year 1 funding now, even though we're coming towards the end of this financial year, thankfully, with the agreement to the WLGA, the funding will be able to be spent between now and the end of the academic year. So that's a huge positive for our schools and these service children. So in Swansea, we've been allocated £7,000 in the first year's funding. And as time was short, really, we needed to make sure that this funding was focused and was going to be used properly in a short period of time. So there's a bit of initial work really in getting schools and staff in schools to understand and explore the specific needs that our service children are facing in general, and also, like with everything, on the back of COVID. So most of the funding in the first part will be going to release a member of staff for a whole day from 30 of our schools to work with Yasmin and myself and other colleagues to sort of start exploring the positives and the negatives, really, that can be linked to being a service child in our schools. So I think we were really keen to make sure that it isn't seen as a negative impact, and that we need to be putting additional things in place, because we are sure there are real positives that come from being a service child in our school. So it's about learning from the experiences of these children and their families, and being able then, in the funding that's coming, that hopefully will be confirmed for next year, so we can then really focus that money in the right way. So of the 7,000, circa 5,000 will be spent on getting these staff released from their schools to really focus in on this work. And then that leaves us then with around £2,000 then, so that we can focus on specific resources for the students that we've identified in our schools. So that's the financial element of what we'll be doing between now and the summer. On top of that, then, I think that there's a bit of work for us to be doing within the local authority, which isn't finance dependent, and it's about mapping the performance of our service children in our schools, and sort of seeing if we spot any patterns, be it positive or negative, that we're seeing from our children and young people as they go through our schools, and then possibly learning some lessons from that as well. And the final one, then, we are going to be setting up a specific SSCE Swansea group, so that we can meet regularly to sort of understand what's happening in our schools with our service children. And then that will hopefully put us in a good place then when it comes to bidding for the 21-22 funding, that funding then will really be driven by the schools. So as it's currently stood, it's been myself working with colleagues in SSCE Cymru. But next year, we really see the schools driving us forward on how that money is invested in our service children going forward. So that's where we're currently at. Obviously happy to take any questions at all, Chair, or even after the meeting. Obviously, I can be contacted by Gareth and the team.
Thank you, Roger. All good news. Anybody got any questions? No. Thank you both. It was really good news, and especially for the next school year, that they'll be able to do it themselves, and hopefully there might be a bit more money, not just 7,000. Thank you. Grace, you next.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to hear, Rodri and Yasmin, of the great work you're pulling together there. That can only be very positive for the pupils in the schools, who I think up until now, through no fault of local authorities or the projects, but I think the fact you're collaborating now and you're looking at the needs, and we've got this injection of funding, I think it's great now that we're moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see what work comes out of this now and how our pupils actually benefit. That's fantastic. On a regional basis, the Armed Forces Day in June this year, the Welsh Government have already announced that they're going to have a virtual one again, obviously. Things might have eased a bit by June, but I think they haven't sort of relied upon that, and they're asking everybody to again make an attempt for a virtual event. So no doubt David's here, is he? I'm not sure today, but we'll look together on that at a later date. There's some grant funding that's been released from the Armed Forces Covenant Trust. Finola, I know that you've had sort of been involved and been supportive of the organisations applying for funding before. Does your involvement still apply in this latest round of funding?
Not officially, but anybody who needs any help with the Force for Change funding, please get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you, Finola. We could rely on you. Your terrific support there. Thank you very much. Sending out details of that now in this next week. Right. The other thing is, you might have heard something in the press about a fortnight ago that the UK government and the MOD announced that there's going to be a Veterans Commissioner in Wales. So that announcement, I'm not speaking out of turn because this is the official line from the Welsh Government. That announcement took the Welsh Government by surprise. They had looked into it in the past and decided it wasn't a route they wanted to go down because they felt it was more important to put that kind of funding into the grassroots support, you know, hence what we have in schools and staff flows around the country, etc. So they're in discussion with the MOD and the UK government. The UK government think it's a great idea for the whole, each principality of the UK to have a commissioner, including in England, so they seem to be ploughing ahead with it. So it's a question of watch this space, but I don't think it's anything that's going to happen in the very near future. It's something that they are looking into. The other thing I have mentioned before is the legislation that's coming out to the UK government and the MOD. Might have seen a bit of that in the press, and it's actually going through the parliamentary process at the moment. And I anticipate in the next month or so that there will be announcements that the UK government have brought up legislation which affects the armed forces community. That legislation is impacting on health, housing and education. And you might not realise, but all those three areas in Wales are devolved to the Welsh Government. So I don't doubt that when the press release is made, that as with many things, many press releases, they seem to ignore that Wales is a standalone country in these aspects. And you might think that this legislation, when it comes out, directly impacts upon Wales. The Welsh Government are working with the UK Government. They keep an eye on the legislation, and they will be passing similar legislation with a Welsh flavour later on. So some of the information you will see in the media affecting the armed forces community will impact upon Wales, but not at the same time, a slightly later date. But believe you me, Peter Evans and the armed forces team in the Welsh Government are working on it, and they will be in touch. Peter Evans is taking part in the Neath Talbot Forum, which is on the 26th of March or 23rd of March. And I've asked him to speak to people about it, and we're also inviting somebody from the MOD to speak. So if anybody would like a bit more information on it, you're more than welcome to attend that meeting. I'm sure many of you will have had invites, but if you haven't had an invite and you'd like to come to that meeting to have a bit more background on it, please do let me know. The scoping exercise with the Welsh Government that they carried out a few years ago, we now have a couple of working groups looking at some of the issues it raised, and these currently involve employment, housing, mental health, and improving information sharing and communication. Now, between us, to address the communication and information sharing, myself and the other AFLOs across Wales, we are currently putting together an improved website that will be more interactive and contain more information. And I'm sure many of you know Lisa Rawlins in the Gwent area and her newsletter. She's currently adapting that to make it a Wales-wide newsletter, and that should be out in the next few weeks. And that, I'm sure, will go a long way to supporting sharing information and making people more aware of what's going on, not in your own local community, but across Wales as well. Something we have to realise is with the Welsh Government, of course, they are imposing sort of measurements that they want to mark the improvements in the armed forces community against. So will there be sort of indicators coming out from the UK government legislation when it's impacted in Wales. And that's all very well, but each of us have to work with our own local authorities who have their own priorities as well. So it's a bit of a juggling act, but I think for each local authority area, we will have a set of priorities which are embedding the legislation priorities that are coming out, the Welsh Government's priorities, and our own local authority priorities. So that'll be a bit of a juggling act, but there'll be more about that in the future as well. There is a lot of, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully coming out of it and getting to a new kind of normality, I'm pleased to note that there is quite a bit of conversation going on amongst our armed forces support organisations about collaboration and working together. So hopefully that will shape up now over the next few weeks as well, but that will be taken forward. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks also. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Chair. Unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Grace. So always a thorough update from you. Anybody got any questions for Grace? Tom?
Hi, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on Grace's point about collaboration. I'm a massive fan of it, and I think it's the only way we can get our work done. Yeah, the only concern I have sometimes is that, you know, if we do collaborate and we refer people, is just make sure the people we've referred to are still continuing to work with us, with the referrer, and keeping us aware of what that veteran either needs or whether the actual referring organisation can continue to support, as we do in Blesma, and just keep working together rather than just taking a referral and then sort of running with it, but then cutting out the referrer. I'd really appreciate that, and I think that goes a long way to keep that trust going as well. So absolutely agree, Grace.
Yeah, if I can respond to that, please, Chair. You're not the first referring organisation that's made that comment to me. It is an issue that, and I think in our competitive funding scenario, I think that is a risk as well, because rightly or wrongly, sometimes a veteran in need is seen with pound signs attached to it, and that should never be the case. But I think that does happen. And it can be just pure forgetfulness on the part of the organisation it's been referred to. So I think there's two sides to the coin there, and I think it is something that we need to work upon and sort of flag up some code of conduct, I suppose, that should be drawn up. And I think you've made a very valid point there, Tom, and maybe that is something that I will refer up to our national organisation, you know, the support organisations we have via the Welsh Government and the Welsh Local Government Association, because I'm sure that is an instance that's come across in many of the organisations right across Wales. And it might be small organisations, it might be big organisations, but yeah, I think that's something I'll flag up for you. And maybe we can have some kind of code of conduct that's drawn up and within part of the new legislation that's coming in. If people are receiving public funding, there's no reason why they shouldn't be signing up to a joint code of conduct in that sense. So yeah, take that on board.
Paul Jones.
Good afternoon, Chair. It's Paul Jones from Swansea Probation. It's just a thought. Next week, I'm due to sit on my final stomp meeting because I believe they've lost the funding for continual support for service users coming through through HMP and then through to ourselves. Do you know if there's any further sort of development, Grace, to assist on people coming through the judicial system?
No, only I know you've been there a few times, as with the substance misuse support type organisations. They've been there a few times. They're both definitely needed. With the it's not only an increased legislation that's coming in, it's an increased awareness of the needs of veterans and an increase in the determination to support them. And I would like to think that with that comes greater funding. And hopefully that will be distributed and, you know, in the right areas and where it's needed as well. So I've not heard of anything, but I'm just crossing my fingers and thinking that, you know, the emphasis, the drive is there to increase support, not decrease support. And that's being underlined by the legislation that's coming out and the scoping of needs and the actions being done by the Welsh Government there. You might find there'll be a bit of a lull now because we are coming up to an election in the Senedd, and things might calm for a little while, and then maybe when the new administrations come in, hopefully it'll be picked up again with more verve and with more funding. We'll just have to wait and see. But I wish you all the best with that, and I hope it is continued because it's definitely an area that's, you know, that's where funding is crucial.
Yeah, could you, in the interim then, do you think it would be advisable to signpost certain areas and individuals, for example, myself and to liaise with the Swansea prison and the sort of have small catchment areas, otherwise these people are just going to fall through a rather large hole in the ground and not be captured?
I think it would be good if, I know in Swansea you used to have the coffee mornings, so you had a support network there. Obviously these haven't happened, and I know that within the prison service there is an issue with joining these kind of Teams meetings, isn't there? But I think it would be good to call together a virtual meeting of all the support organisations and get that ring of support around you that you know where to refer people to, and your colleagues in the probation service and the prison service really know where to go for that support, and to be able to find out what support's available out there.
Okay, many thanks both.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. Captain Chris?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points for myself. All three services are continuing to support Welsh Government with Op Restrict, the pandemic, obviously with military planners, ambulance drivers, support at vaccination centres, and obviously a number of mobile COVID testing centres. As a Regiment 157, we have currently 5 soldiers on full mobilisation, all supporting various health boards, 1 in Cardiff, 1 in the Vale of Glamorgan, 1 supporting Welsh Blood Services, W2 Robinson supporting Powys. We have an officer as well supporting Swansea Bay, and then last week as a squadron we supported by deploying a combat med technician as well to do the vaccination programme. As a regiment, we continue to work from home, minimum manning within the reserve centres. We're not conducting any face-to-face training. That has been re-looked at the 31st of March. We're continuing all our training on virtual, on Zoom. Recruiting continues to be virtual. There's lots of interest at the moment joining the reserves. We've been supporting CCF Llandarcy with various training packages and also a number of colleges over the last couple of weeks. Commanding Officer 157 has presented to the Lord Lieutenant of West Glamorgan last week and 6 of her deputies to strengthen the links of 157 with her and her team of going forward and to see what we can do within the future. And lastly, I'd like to say that I formally resigned as the Vice Chair to yourself last week. 41 years of my service comes to an end on the 31st of May, and I would just like to thank you and the whole team for a tremendous 7 years of being on the panel, starting with June, and then Wendy with yourself over the last year. It's been an honour and a privilege, and it's something I will never forget, being in the forces, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your service to the Covenant and especially helping me and always there if I pick up the phone. We haven't had such a good year, but you've still been there, and I did try not to accept your resignation twice, didn't I? So it didn't work. You're still going. And Jim, would you like to say something?
Yeah, can I first of all thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to attend the meeting. I was at Chris's first meeting, or should I say Captain Chris Evans, MB, at his first meeting, and sadly I'm now at his last. Chris became my vice chair and he was a huge support to me and the Covenant. He put Swansea Covenant to the forefront when he won the Wales Armed Forces Award in 2018, and he went on to help us in Swansea win the Gold Award the following year. He's been heavily involved in the 223 West Glamorgan Transport Squadron, and along with Phil Flowers, they've been heavily involved in many of our Armed Forces events, including Armed Forces Day, Remembrance Day and the Air Show. When I was retired, I was able to see the squadron receive the Honorary Freedom of the City in July 2019. A momentous day for me. But typical of Chris in the background, he wasn't at the ceremony because he was back in the Grange cooking food for his colleagues. And I must say he is an excellent chef, and I can verify that because I attended St David's Day dinner at the Grange and it went down really well. So can I say, Chris, thank you very much for all your support and help that you've given me. I know you've served over 40 years and you may find it hard now in retirement, but can I wish you and your partner a very long and happy retirement, and thank you once again for all your support and help.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, that was lovely. Emotional, eh? Is there anybody from Swansea Bay Airport? Don't think so.
No, I don't think so, Chairman, not today.
It's twice a week, Chairman.
No?
No. No, we're going to have to skip that one, won't we?
Yeah.
Have we got any updates from panel members? Anybody like to update us? Come on, I'm sure you've got loads to say. Yeah, Steve.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wing Commander Steve Fry. I'm one of the Lord Lieutenant's deputies for those that I haven't met. Thanks just for allowing me to steal a few minutes of the meeting. Any of the armed forces charities that are involved in the meeting this afternoon that I haven't yet reached, Grace very kindly gave me a list of contacts when I was appointed a DL the back end of last year. And whilst my deputy lieutenant colleague, Phil Flower, who's on the line, is certainly heavily involved in the more national charities, the Lord Lieutenant has asked me to sort of reach out to the smaller ones for the armed forces. And I note the comments a few moments ago about Stomp, which is unfortunate. But if any of you from the armed forces charity sector would like to get in touch, the Lord Lieutenant is very keen to offer whatever support she can, probably mostly by way of attending your events and offering support. So if I haven't already got in touch with you or you're unaware of my activity, do please come back to me. And just to add to June Burtonshaw's comments, Chris, an outstanding achievement, 41-year career in the Army. You know, you are the competition to us in the other services, but an outstanding effort, and particularly for Swansea. Well done, buddy, and congratulations on your retirement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, yeah. Tom Sloan?
Yeah, hi everyone, just a quick one from me really, just to let you all know that the Ospreys in the community and Swans Community Trust in the squad programme is up and running virtually every other Wednesday at the moment at 10 o'clock. So if anyone would like to drop in, have a chat, got anyone who would like to be involved in it, that's fantastic. And then hopefully over the next, as restrictions start to ease, we'll be back into looking at physical activity and trying to get some outdoor activities done as soon as possible, really. So if anyone needs any information, I'll circulate the poster or the flyer.
Can you send it, Tom, to Gareth so you can
Sure.
circulate? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that straight away. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace is next.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't master putting my hand up technically wise while Chris was speaking earlier, but I too would just like to wish Chris all the very best. You were absolutely invaluable to, getting me familiar with all the military terminology and the military procedures when I came into post. Thank you very much. And the Covenant marquee that we did in the air show was one of the highlights of my working with you in Swansea area. Neath Talbot is different, but we'll go into that when you come to the forum in Neath Talbot. But that was a terrific day, and terrific 2 days, and much down to your enthusiasm and determination to make it work. And thank you very much, Chris, for all your support that I've received, and very best wishes to you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, great.
Thank you, Chair. I have given a presentation in PDF form to Gareth to circulate, but I just wanted to make you aware that there are two new projects coming out of Havel. There's the digital skills for veterans, where we're looking for veterans or people working with veterans to train as digital champions to support veterans that are technically challenged. We've also got a new project which is about to start for loneliness and social isolation of veterans. It's mainly in mid Wales, but following the clinical meeting with Swansea Bay this morning, there is a small team of us getting together, and we are hoping to put together a Swansea Hub for veterans, which Tom doesn't realise, but we're all going to talk to him about it later as well. Tom Sloan, that is. Thank you very much, Chair.
Oh, thank you for all of that. Sounds really good. I hope it all comes on. Anybody else? Oh, Phil Flower.
Yeah, just to add to Chris's, the compliments of success and thanks to Chris, I would say that to sum him up in 2 words, that he's a true gentleman. And a really good friend, and that relationship has developed over many years with the massive successes that he's brought to not only West Glamorgan but to Neath Talbot. And he's a gentleman that once he commits to something, you won't get anything less than 200%. So he's made a huge difference to the armed forces community and the reservists, certainly in the 2 sort of counties. And he'll be sorely lost, and he's never once failed to challenge me on my junior service and put me straight at any of the events we've been to. But and one thing I will ensure is that we don't lose that friendship, because he's quite an exceptional individual. So moving on, I've had all the returns for the Lord Mayor's Cadet in the City and County of Swansea and the Mayor's Cadet Awards for Neath Talbot, so they'll be going through to the appropriate channels, and the Armed Forces Covenant and the Mayors will be looking at what nominations there are for the Army, Sea and the Air Cadets. Cadet Forces are still waiting for an ease of restrictions, obviously through the Welsh Government, and hopefully we'll be returning to some face-to-face contact as soon as possible. And just one comment to Neil Tomlin. Neil, we'll have to get in touch because with the light that coming at the end of the tunnel for the return for cadet forces, you know, let's pin some dates down for the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund, and I'll give you a ring potentially this week, and we can move forwards on that. But lastly, you know, well done to Chris. Inspiring. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Tom Hall.
Hi, Chair. Yeah, I just before I just cover my point, I'd just like to wish Chris all the best of luck, because he has been fantastic for the panel, and anytime I've ever needed help or having a chat with Chris, he's always been fantastic. So good luck, Chris. Just from me. I just wanted to pick up on Finola's point about digital volunteers. We used Digital Communities Wales quite a few years ago to train some of our members and some of our volunteers, and they have now been giving, you know, direct support and advice to our members and their families at home, and it has made a big difference over the last 2 years, especially during COVID. So, you know, I'm more than happy to get involved where I can, and I'm more than happy to use the joint volunteering approach as well. So if you want to go down the joint volunteering route, Finola, and just you put some agencies together, including Blesma, more than happy to do that, because all veterans will benefit from a digital volunteer. All right, I just wanted to pass that on, really. I fully support that.
Thank you, Tom. Adrian?
Yeah, just one from picking up on what Tom said there. Finola, we've got Veterans TV, which was circled out on the last meeting. That's up and running now. It's like a Netflix type thing, but it's designed for veterans, businesses and owners to push out their information across a digital media channel. So again, you know, if you want any of the guys to get involved in that, there's plenty of work to be done on that. And it is there to help and support the veterans and get as much information as we can out to them. So yeah, that'd be great if we could meet up on that as well. Really good.
Thank you, Adrian. Anyone else would like to update? No, I did a bit of an update, just a little bit of an update because David Price-Deer can't attend. He said we've been asked, sorry, he's gone. Oh, we've been asked what is happening with the air show this year, and they're currently working their way through the Welsh Government regulations and timelines. At this stage, no formal decision has been made. Anybody else would like to say anything before I got my last little bit here? No? Okay, so we need now to nominate a vice chair. And have we any nominations?
Squadron leader Phil Flowers.
Thank you. Have we got any second? Who'd second it? Oh, thank you. Thank you. 2 seconders. That's great. Thank you so much. Phil, do you accept?
Yeah, obviously I'll accept, and I'd leave myself open to asking many questions in the future, and a lot will be to obviously Chris, who's been yeah, he's a true friend, and I'm sure he'll show me the path of righteousness. But as all true army types, he's demoted me already, so I'm now back to squadron leader. So I don't mind. I can take it off Chris. I've had many other sort of demotions, but hopefully not within this group. So yeah, I humbly accept the responsibility, and it'll be a great honour to serve alongside Wendy, who I know you all know that she puts in a massive amount of time and effort, certainly outside her working day, and what she does for the community is absolutely outstanding. So yeah, it'd be a great honour, and thank you for the nomination.
Thank you, and I know you will support me as you do and you have done for the last 2 years. So thank you. Natalie?
I'd just like to amend the records, please, to say Wing Commander Phil Flowers, MBE, I nominate you. I do apologise for being so fast off the starting line, but sorry, sir.
You're forgiven.
Natalie?
Yeah, hello everyone. Just a question for Phil. Is there any update on the RBL's centenary plans, please?
well, can I just say that we've got lots organised, and until we get this firm sort of delivery from the First Minister, then everything that I've put out in the last meeting is well organised. The only thing we're waiting for is the date. So as soon as we get a date that we can actually plan something robustly, then we're all waiting as everybody else is. So I'll be the first to let you know, Natalie, especially about the motorcycle ride.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else before we close? Nope. Thank you all so much for taking the time out to come to the meeting. It's been quite a good meeting, and the next meeting will be at 2 p.m. on the 12th of July. So hopefully you're all, or most of you will be there. Thank you, June, for coming, and thank you, Phil, for being my vice chair.
Thank you for inviting me, Chair.